Hello, YouTube world. I want to talk briefly about another nutritional hack, or little helpful hint that I think could really make a huge impact on your weight loss or fitness journey, and that is leveraging the glycemic index chart. And what that is a carbohydrate's impact or effect on insulin secretion, and an insulin spike is its glycemic index. The higher the glycemic index, the faster that particular carbohydrate is converted to glycogen and then subsequently affecting your insulin. The lower the glycemic index, the slower or more time released, if you will, the conversion of the carbohydrate into energy, making a lower or smaller insulin spike. The goal, really, and it's important to kind of wrap your mind around this, think about your diet as a game in which you're trying to keep your insulin as flatlined or stable as possible, because not only is it helpful for actual weight loss, it's hugely impactful for cravings. Where you get these cravings is blood sugar and insulin spikes and blood sugar deviations. You have that donut at the morning meeting, or you have cake, because they have some office award ceremony or whatever, and your blood sugar spikes, and then you're crashing. You're starving in a couple hours, and you don't know why. You have lunch or whatever, but then you're starving. Why? Because you gave yourself a huge blood sugar spike. So it's not just the calories that you're ingesting that are hurting you. You're setting yourself up for failure later in the day by knowingly doing something that's going to give you a blood sugar crash, and then your cravings are going to be out of control. I mean, it's not going to be a normal craving like, oh, I'm kind of hungry, I feel depleted, I need to eat something. No, it's just going to be like a ravenous, and what do you crave? You crave other sugar. You don't eat a piece of cake or a donut and then a few hours later crave, meat or potatoes or whatever. You crave another donut, you crave a cookie, you crave ice cream. So anyway, kind of a sideline note. So you don't necessarily have to give up carbs, and this is one thing I should probably say, I'm not going to advocate for any one particular diet regimen. I think you need to find what works for you, find what you can stick with that works. I've already talked about intermittent fasting. Keto is available. I know keto works. I'm going to leave it up to you to decide whether you think it's healthy. The jury's still out on long-term keto use or whatever. I'm going to leave that up to you. But let's say you're not doing that. Let's say you eat carbs. One thing you can do is just try to only eat carbs that have a low glycemic index. So let's talk about bread. Bread is, probably the most common carb that we as Americans eat. And it's in sandwiches, it's in a lot of things, and it's probably the hardest thing to replace. And the gluten-free or carb-free or whatever bread is usually nasty, right? It usually tastes nasty. So it's not something we can stick with, right? So a little trick is substitute out your bread for either truly sourdough bread or pumpernickel. These breads have been shown to actually have a lower glycemic index. And from some of the readings I've done, a lot of diabetic people will only eat sourdough bread because it doesn't have as deleterious of effect on your insulin. And if you also notice, most of your breads have anywhere from 2 to 4 grams of sugar, added sugar per slice. Most sourdough bread has no added sugar, no sugar in any particular slice. So, if you have, 2 pieces of bread on top of all the carbs that you're getting, you're also going to be, taking in 4 or 5 grams of sugar. And you don't need that. It's not, you can't really tell the difference. And to be honest with you, I've started eating sourdough bread. I think it tastes good. I think sourdough bread is not bad. And so if it's going to be better for me, if it's going to be easier on the insulin, why not? Why not do that? And same, with rice. Try long grain rice, brown rice is good. Basically, things that are less processed. So oatmeal, oatmeal's good, but even better is the kind of oatmeal that you have to boil and not the instant oatmeal. Yellow grits have been like country style, old fashioned yellow grits have a low glycemic index. So you can easily look up glycemic index online, but one little trick is just say, hey, I'm gonna try to only eat things with a glycemic index of under 60. You know, I'm not gonna eat anything with a glycemic index of over 60 or 50 or 55, or whatever you feel comfortable with. But you know, you can look at potatoes, regular russet potatoes and sweet potatoes, and sweet potatoes have a lower glycemic index. So once again, something that a lot of us are familiar with, that sweet potatoes are pretty good for you, and that's the reason why. The reason sweet potatoes are better is because they have a lower glycemic index. So that's one little hack, something to consider, saying, you know what, I don't want to give up carbs, I don't want to do keto, I'm gonna eat carbs, what can I do? You can try to limit your carbs to only things below, and I would say 50 or 60 on the glycemic index is a good place to start. All right, well, hope that's helpful.